And I felt like it was important for me and for generations to come to go to the school and to be that body in that community. I felt it was too good of an opportunity to pass on. So I went. I was heartbroken about NYU, but I chose Georgetown.
And he would get in his Jeep and come toward my mama's house. And just depending on which way the wind was blowing, all of that dust was on the white clothes after she hung them up.
When John Carroll wrote that letter about selling a few enslaved people to pay the lawyer bills, it could have possibly been one of my ancestors. And I was looking at the census of enslaved people created by Maryland at the end of the Civil War. And right there, the last Queen family members held in bondage in Maryland were held by a ducat. My family. It struck me in that moment, as I was looking at that document, that no one can stand apart from slavery in American history. No one can see the past as something they are not a part of. I obviously couldn't in that moment. Slavery touched every aspect of this society, and the idea that I could deal with slavery at arm's length or deal with these freedom suits as something that were independent or separate from my family was fiction.
My name is Tony Thomas, director, choreographer, interior architect.
Okay. Tony, tell me about your thinking when you created this movie.
My thinking was very specific and very sensitive to the history that we live in America, considering slavery and oppression, things that are still affecting our community today, and respecting the stories and lineage that this work came from. All the way from Vicksburg, Mississippi, to the New England states, to DC, and everywhere in this country.
Why did you choose this particular forum for this?
Well, this particular piece is actually developed out of an entire project called Freedom Suit Initiatives. And it's produced by Brooke Kidd at Joe's Movie Emporium. And this is interview-based. So everything that you are hearing and experiencing and watching was developed from actual individual interviews that probably would have run maybe 10 pages per person. But it was condensed into a conversation. And this experience that moved in and out and was edited to give you one perspective off the other, but ultimately tied together. And it was a beautiful thing that Psalm 24 wrote in the sense of bringing all these minds and experiences and emotions together to tell one specific story. And it was kind of, I guess, a little edgy for me to consider having so much activity on the theatrical space, but the challenge became sewing it together, weaving it together visually, with sound, with movement, with scenery, and also finding those moments that I knew we needed as an audience to keep it real, but also to keep the content light and optimistic.
You included Baltimore in there.
Yeah.
Have you had a Baltimore experience?
I have. I was younger, in my early 20s. I'm 44 now. But in my earlier 20s, I did have a bit of a Baltimore experience that showed me how different things could be in different environments. Just as easy from DC, PG County, to Virginia, to Baltimore, New York. I've lived in New York, I've lived in Los Angeles, I've lived all over. And every environment is a different experience. No one state is the same, but one thing that is present in every location, racism, oppression.
Now, you've also included diversity in there.
Right.
What's your thinking in that?
Diversity in terms of producing this piece and making it a part of it? Great, he's in the room. It's okay. It's okay. I'm sorry, ask the question one more time.
You're including diversity. The guy from Baltimore was gay.
Yes, absolutely. So as a black experience, right? We're everything. We're straight. We're We're politicians, we're athletes, we're musicians, we're singers, actors, dancers. Looking at someone, you cannot assume. But those characteristics per person makes you a person from inside out, head to toe. And that's how I directed these fabulous actors, is to consider the person you're reading and you're watching their videos and know that that's a soul, an energy that has experienced something from inside out. Don't play them. You had to be them. You had to find their nuances and the real charisma to their soul to put that on stage.
Now, in your lifetime, will racism end?
No, I do not think in this country that racism will end. I do believe that this country is built on a very specific format and system, and every day they just get more and more clever how to work the system.
Where's the hope?
There is hope. The hope is playing the game that they created. I look at it as a game. It's sad, but how else can we get through it by...
Will you win?
Oh, yes. I think I'm winning. My grandfather was military based. My mother was a triple threat performer. My father was a famous drummer, George Clinton in Parliament Funkadelic. It's what you do with what's in front of you, whether it's the lowest you can think of in life or the highest opportunity. Like Jeff's character said, luck and perseverance is my history. It's what I come from, right? So I think there's that part of what we see nowadays with the young guys in the streets that you have to make a choice. I'm going to do better for my family or I'm not. And a lot of them have just fallen into what they believe is their destiny and their fate. But that's not true. There's so much more to be, to say, to achieve. But if you have not been given that opportunity, that vision, you're conditioned completely different. I was conditioned in a certain way to think better in the moment, to find something tomorrow that was different from today, to not settle for less. And that's part of this conversation and these efforts, is to bring younger people in who are lost and confused, who are watching the Floyds and the violence and things like that on TV, and to not fall into that and feel like you have to be a rebel. That's a different rebellion. Things that are going on now, King and X, those guys that led where we are now, those were opposing thoughts and energies that they had, but it was for the same mission. Freedom, equality, recognition of our skin tone, treat us like men, not less than anything below your shoe, that type of feel. So I believe that there's an opportunity, there is hope, but you got to know how to work this system. That's where it works for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked the system.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Sweet morning, sweet morning, sweet morning.